deep dive into the forces shaping governance, policies, and power. From the halls of government.
You were there. I was not there. Check the record. Wait now. You were there. I was not there.
To the voices of the people.
We are suffering. This suffering is too much. It's too much. Look at the students. There's no job. They finish school. There's no job for them.
We analyze the undercurrents, expose the intrigues, and break down the narratives that define our democracy. Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki delivering razor-sharp analysis, and Ibuka Franklin and Chisom on the question wheel, driving the conversation. We bring you the most compelling discussions on governance, policies, and power plays. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay ahead. The Polity, every weekdays at 9:15 a.m. Exclusive on Udala 104.7 FM Onitsha.
While the massacre victims in Kwara State complained the inefficiency of security operatives in that area, and of course the slow response time, what I witnessed this morning gave me another reason to pause and think about policies in Nigeria, how they are implemented, and who is checking if they are really being implemented to the latter. So I was coming out this morning somewhere around Stock Exchange. There is a new hotel around Stock Exchange, and I saw this obviously it has to be a VIP. 4 vehicles, 3 of them had police officers, at least 3 at the back of every of those SUVs. So I counted at least 9 police officers, 9 attached to one person. Franklin, 9 police officers attached to one person in a country where we have insufficient personnel in the force generally across all forces, the police, the army, you name it. And I've been asking myself, what is the fate of the common man? How is the common man being catered for if one person has to work with 9 police officers? There could be more. So approximately we are talking 15 to 16. And we are talking resources also being expanded because they have to be catered for. And who knows where the resources are coming from. But of course, it is Nigeria. And we keep talking. We would keep talking until someday the change that we all desire comes to be a part of our system. Good morning to you and welcome to the Polity right here on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. I am Chisom Chinedu. Franklin Ibuka is here. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, Chisma. Good morning to everybody listening to us. The story you just talked about is like trying to paint a picture of how Nigeria is run, because Nigeria is a country whereby government gives directive, but there are always exceptions. We had the sacred cows, and when people try to describe Nigeria as the satirical animal farm, where all animals are equal, but some are more equal than the other, and that tells you that is our situation. We are in this country. Of course, we were in this country when Mr. President announced that he had given an order for all police officers attached to VIPs to be withdrawn. Later, there were some clarifications on those who are entitled to that and those who are entitled to that. And he said that anybody who wanted police escort should apply, to the IGP through him, or rather to him through the IGP and what have you not. In fact, they gave different explanations, saying that at the end of the day, anybody who wants police protection should go to NSCDC and what have you not. But like you just pointed out, what you saw this very morning was just one out of several, or one out of thousands out there. In the heat of that very announcement by Mr. President, we saw some VIP persons going ahead with a long convoy of our security men, policemen attached to them. So that's our sorry state, and it's quite astonishing that while we are trying to say one thing on one hand, on the other hand, we are doing the opposite. So that's our situation, I must tell you.
It's really sad. Dr. Tony Lisambeki is joining us from wherever he is at the moment. He's going to be joining us virtually, yes. And of course, how is he said now? Frankly, technology. He's going to be joining us.
Technology, which our senators said we're not ready for.
It's really a pity. We're only ready for it when it comes to AI being used to bring picture of a sitting senator and a South African body. That's only where we are doing technology. But if it comes to transmitting election results, oh no, we're not ready. You know what I'm talking about. But of course, we're going to tell you what the front pages of the papers say, and then we dive into the analysis proper. On our desk this morning, we have the Vanguard, the Guardian, the Punch, and This Day newspapers. On the Vanguard newspaper, the banner headline is 2027. Majority of senators want real-time results transmission. Baribe, Ningi, Ume, others. On page 7, vow to ensure inclusion, monitor process to present presidential assent, outrage great Senate rejection of mandatory transmission of results, opposition parties blast Senate, Obi ADC, Yaga Africa, Wanko, others speak. Kwara massacre on page 5. Soldiers came 10 hours after terrorists had killed scores. That's from the village head. Defense headquarters says the troops promptly deployed in receipt of information of attack. And from what we understand, these people were told they were going to be attacked. So they said with a letter written to the people of Noro and telling them they were going to be preached to when these terrorists eventually come. And they refused to turn up for this preaching. You know how people announce a crusade? They wrote a letter to them telling them, we're coming to preach to you. And they didn't turn up for the preaching, and so they unleashed mayhem on them. And when I was having this conversation with you of the microphone, Franklin, I said, it is possible that when they got that letter, intelligence must have been sent out to the state security experts or operatives in that state. And what happened to intensifying security around those areas, I mean, for a period of time at least. It's called proactive security and not reactive, where you send troops at the receipt of news of attack. What happens to receipt of news that they were coming to preach, whatever it is that we're coming to do? I mean, it's a rhetoric, of course. They have answers to these questions, but are they going to give us? You already know the answer. On page 9, INEC registers NDC DLA worries over crisis in parties. And 10,000 drivers to benefit from Lagos government's health safety program. The story is on page 10. Downstream deregulation delivers 6 trillion naira gain in 9 months. That's from MGPRA on page 19. 2 PDP factions insist on fielding candidates in 2027 polls on page 8. And above the nameplate of the paper, how Nigeria can move from potential to economic prosperity. Adedeji is speaking on page 19. Poor data privacy, how online scams and solicited ads score Nigeria's digital economy low. On page 14, 1,949 massacre. Court orders UK to pay £420 million to 21 Nigerian families. Okay, this is a 1949 massacre, please. 1949 massacre. Court orders UK to pay £420 million to 21 Nigerian families. On page 11, US President acknowledges Nigeria's First Lady is respected woman. On page 8, I saw the video of Donald Trump saying the president's wife, pastor, Oluremi Tinubu. It was on grounds of her being a pastor. You know, President Donald Trump has been on and about Christians and all of that. I guess that's I know that is what actually he was referring to and what transpired there. Those are the stories you'd see on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper.
Okay, interesting. Of course, that very story talked about the court judgment in Enugu State that came about. I think that should be about something years after the very massacre that happened in Enugu then, when the colonial masters were holding sway. Okay, so we now move over to the Guardian newspaper to look at the headlines. And the big story here says, Electoral Act, Senate decision triggers outrage, doubts over 2027 elections. That story is on page 6. Nexim XMD Robert Onya jailed 10 years for 2.4 billion fraud. And the next story says Kaduna Khan confirmed release of kidnapped worshippers. That story is on page 25 of the Guardian newspaper. Businesses battle rising costs as confidence weakens in January. That story is on page 8 of the Guardian newspaper. We go over to the headlines beneath the nameplate. One of them says FG unveils halal economy strategy to unlock $12 billion. That story is on page 5. Wike-backed PDP faction attends INEC meeting with political parties. That story is on page 3. And the faction led by Tamino Turaki, who are loyal to Sheyi Makinda for your state, they are not finding it very funny. They are saying that since our relationship crisis has been lingering and nothing has been resolved, so why should INEC go ahead to, of course, give some recognition to the Wike faction by giving them a place at the INEC meeting with the political parties that happened yesterday in Abuja. FG to review revenue allocation remuneration. Okay. FG to review revenue allocation remuneration for political office holder. That story is on page 3. And the under headline says Edo APC Oyegun Bika over alleged 150 million naira debt. Is on page 29. After 160 deaths in Kwara, Tinubu holds emergency talks as leaders demand action. That story is on page 6. And the last story says that West Island marginal field court nullifies revocation, reinstate Euroafric energy. I think the story is on page 30 of Guardian newspaper.
All right, then let's go to the Punch newspaper. The banner headline here is Kwara Massacre. UN condemns killings as Turkey pledges support. Tinubu meets governors. Northern senators demand security overhaul. IG deploys tactical team on page 2. How is he going to get men to deploy, I ask again? The same men who are attached to VIPs across the country. Last I checked, how many? We were told about 11,000 were withdrawn.
Yes.
And we haven't been given an update as to what has been done with them, because we were told they were going to be retrained and then redeployed to different other units. And so far, how many months down the line, we don't have any update on that development?
Well, the Nigeria will always surprise you because we have a way of playing with people's intelligence. I can record when we had an end-SARS protest where people demanded that SARS should be disbanded. Federal government, consented by announcing that SARS was going to be disbanded. Later, they announced that it was going to be a SWAT that will come in place of SARS. But guess what? Today, we no longer have the name SARS, but we say have police tactical operations or police unit that still operates in the manner that SARS used to operate. And
so at the end of the day, no real change was recorded because we still have people being constantly manhandled, bullied. It's really unfortunate. I don't know when we're going to really get real change in Nigeria. But of course, that story is on page 2. You could read up more about it. PDP crisis. Makinde camp fumes as INEC recognizes Wike block on page 33. Interesting development there. Respected woman, quote unquote now. Trump hails Remi Tinubu at US prayer breakfast on page 38. Beside the nameplate of the paper, electoral act, opposition pushes back as e-transmission faces firestorm on page 2. Kaduna abduction. 183 freed victims recount ordeal. Government pledges rehabilitation on page 39. Same old story. How do we prevent further abductions? That's the question.
Okay, maybe when I have time, I will show you a picture so that somebody shared with me this very morning. Where DSS was shown, conveying these very people back to their bases with different vehicles, and somebody went down and wrote that if we are going to probe deeper, that we will see that somebody is already making money from running logistics for all these conveyance of people from one point to the other, and that is our story because we always find a way of making money from every situation. That is the sad reality we have in this very country. And we go back to the headlines we have on this newspaper. A couple of them, and the major one here says opposition wants democracy on the brink over Senate refusal to clearly mandate real-time upload of result. That story is on page 34. And then another headline says Nigeria keys into $7.7 trillion global halal market as national economic strategy is launched. That story is on page 8. This one says this diplomacy. Tinubu plays the Remi card. Okay. Diplomacy. Tinubu plays the Remi card on Trump. Christian pastor soft power. I think you also read the headline on Punch newspaper, because yesterday at that very Thanksgiving event that they had in US, we saw the wife of the president, who was well seated, and Trump, recognized her presence, saying that she's a respectable woman and what have you not. And perhaps it's part of the PR that the government has deployed to ensure that they get to, have Trump government on the side of Nigeria when it comes to the issue of the alleged Christian genocide that we have in Nigeria.
All right, we're starting the conversation proper at this point, and of course, it all starts with what happened in Kwara State. Unfortunately, according to reports, soldiers arrived 10 whole hours after what had happened. And of course, this is a live report from the persons in that community. Apparently, what we have is an attack which is one of the deadliest in recent times in Woro community. And also, Woro wasn't the only community attacked. It was Woro and surrounding communities in Kwara State. According to reports, security officials arrived, like I said, 10 hours later, and at least 162 people were killed. 160. First, we had a report about 70 thereabout, and then we had 102, and presently we are at 162 casualties counted. The first set of people were given a funeral almost immediately after, according to Muslim rights, and where we are at the moment is looking at why it took so long for security forces to respond to that emergency. 10 whole hours later, that's like half a day later. Almost half a day later.
Yes, the Kwara incident is like a reminiscent of what happens in the country, because if we begin to take records of all the security breaches we have had in this very country, you see that we are having almost the same thing reoccurring in the same manner. When we had issues in Kwara State in the initial time, we almost had the same thing. We talk about the ones we had in Kogi State, the ones we have in Niger State, Borno State. Just to mention that you see that we have this reoccurrence of similar pattern whereby an attack is happening, people cry out, an SOS is sent out, and then people who are supposed to come to help to rescue the people or help to engage the assailants, they come hours later. Now, if you look at the story which was told by I'll call him one of the survivors of that very attack, because the village head said that he found a way to sneak out from that very community. That was why he survived it. And he has spoken to different media houses. He has spoken to TV stations, spoken to Reuters, news agency, and what have you not. And he was telling the same story that, how this thing happened was the fact that these very bandits or these very terrorists, let's call them who they are. These very terrorists, initially they wrote them a letter, asking them to prepare that they were going to come to their communities to preach the gospel of whatever they believe in, whether gospel of Islam or whatever. And on the appointed day, so these very community people did not show up for that very indoctrination, and they felt slighted, and they prepared to launch an attack. But the story is that before they launched the attack, that they gave a warning that they were going to come to attack the community, that they wrote a letter. The man said that he got the letter himself, and he personally made a call to security agencies to say, this letter we got, and he even submitted a letter himself. So he was not saying that he was thinking that perhaps there was a compromise somewhere why nothing was done before the attack happened, and even on the day of the attack, after they made a call, soldiers came 10 hours after the incident happened, because they said these guys came around 5 to 6 p.m. in the evening and began the attack, and finished around soldiers came around 3 a.m. and when they came, these guys had already left. Now, where I'm trying to drive to his taste, we seem not to have learned from incidents of the past. whereby one incident happens and everybody cries out loud. Government talks about how they are going to respond and what they are doing to ensure that doesn't happen again. Then the same thing repeats itself again. The time we had that's the time we had abduction. Trying to remember the state where we had that very abduction, where it was reported that I think that should be is it that this adoption of a school children
Niger.
somewhere, where it was noted that security men who were attached to that very place were withdrawn some hours before the attack happened.
Papiri.
Exactly. And the government talked about how they were going to investigate, do this, do this, do that. And up till now, we haven't heard about the outcome of that very investigation. So what happened in Kwara is just like a repetition of the, is like repeating the same old script that we have known, whereby we don't become proactive. We only respond to issues when incident had happened. Because I just wondered, even in our own climb here, sometimes when you see that there is a security breach somewhere, and you might say, okay, let me make the call and alert security agencies. You see that most of the times they don't get to respond. And if you begin to dig deeper to find out why these things happen, you can find different reasons. One could be that these very security men, they might have thought about if they will be able to match the firepower of those criminals or those terrorists who are doing the operation, or it could be the issue of a compromise. We cannot rule the fact that we have people who have been sabotaging efforts of the government and security agencies for them to be able to deal with insecurity. I must tell you, we have sympathizers who have found themselves in government agencies, working hand in hand with these other people. That sometimes when government is supposed to act on intelligence, nobody does anything. Everybody just waits until when incident happens, and then we begin to issue press statements, begin to order for deployment of different number of security agencies. IGP will locate to the place. The governor will go to the place of the victims to sympathize with them, announce one thing or the other. But what we're supposed to do, we don't do that. So I'm just hoping that one day we'll be able to realize that we have wasted enough of human lives in this very country. Just imagine not less than 75 persons being killed at one full swoop in just two communities in Kwara State. And this very Kwara State has been suffering from this very terrorist attack in recent time. Kwara wasn't even, like 2 years ago, thereabout, Kwara wasn't among the likes of Borno State and Niger, where we keep on having incidents almost on daily basis. But now, Kwara is now being encroached into. And we get out that Kwara has a forest that houses these very terrorists. So they have found a very safe place whereby they can launch an attack from and then get into that very place and happen it. And my question has been, if we have this kind of forest that harbors these very people, is it too difficult to penetrate this very forest or even clear it so that it can be a harboring ground? Let's use a number for instance. When government launched this very economic chamber, I can recall that there was a time they launched operation into certain forests in Achala because they knew that these people used to hide in that place. It used to be their launching pad, and these security agencies launched operation into that very area, and they were able to clear their camps. So what is that very thing that we have not been able to fathom on how we can go about trying to clear some of this very forest? Because yes, of course, somebody might argue that it's always a big forest. Yes, but we have to, if we make an attempt to penetrate, of course, when they feel that their hideout has been nipped, of course they will have they will think of how to relocate to go to another place.
Was it the defense minister a few days ago said when they are pushed out from one place, they move to another? He said places like Kwara that haven't been having incidents, that's just started having incidents, is as a result of the pushback from other places, and then they are recently finding home in Kwara. And the question is, why are we pushing back? Why are we not eliminating for these elements? The target shouldn't be to push back. The target should be to eliminate. I mean, Trump sent missiles to Zamfara, Sokoto forests on Christmas Eve. That's the kind of operations we should be launching. A cleanup and not a push out, because they're definitely going to find home somewhere else. So it sounds like at the end of the day, we're still handling them with kid gloves. It's a case of, trying not to assault making sure that there is no assault. So I don't know, maybe not to anger them or anything of that sort. Of course, Dr. Tony Lisambeki is trying to connect, so I'll just find a way to get him to join us right now.
So the issue we have now, because I think when it comes to when you put these guys out from one place to move to another place, of course it can be obtainable, but for the fact that we have not thought about how we can go ahead and deal with this once and forever. Yes, somebody can say that we are incapacitated, but if we summon the will to work with what we even have, I believe that we'll be able to even make an inroad.
Absolutely.
Before we talk about asking for help from others who can help us.
Dr. Tony Lisambeki, good morning. Please turn down the volume on your radio set.
Good morning. Good morning, Isom Chinedu. Good morning, Franklin Ebuka. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, Anambra. Good morning, Ndonicha. Good morning, Ndosimo. And not forgetting in the main market. In the main market, we thank God for this very beautiful day, Friday, the 6th day in the month of February, the year 2026. We are happy. I thank God of Almighty for our lives. We are happy, and I'm joining live from my location. You're welcome.
Good morning, Tony, once again. And we are talking about what happened in Kwara State. Tony, I'm getting a howl back. Turn off your radio entirely.
I think I'm not listening with radio. Probably it's maybe the network. Maybe I'm gonna change device. Possibly, if that will be the case, I will change device. Probably I will get back and let me change device and then get back to you.
All right, thank you. I think probably his device is on the speaker and it's giving us some sort of interference. So, Franklin, speaking about Kwara State, still on Kwara State, we haven't exhausted all the gray areas regarding what happened there and what might continue to happen if we do not do something decisive as a people. And so, let's talk about how this is going to impact public confidence. Let's see. Tony, are you here?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me? Hello, Tony.
Yes, I can hear you.
This is a lot better.
All right.
So, Tony, we were talking about Kwara State. From what we have now, the report says 162 people were killed. And according to reports, before that strike, these elements had written a letter to that community and told them that we are coming to preach to them. All right? And they didn't turn up on the supposed preaching day. And so the question at this point would be, what happened between the time that this letter came and the time that they struck? Why was there no security, or would I call it security operation going on in that area? Why was there no posting? I mean heavy security, proactive security, making sure that they get these people when they come.
If you ask that question, there will be a repeated issue where we get actually act on intelligence. There was an intelligence that these people would come, but at the end of the day, as usual, it has also been a repeating decimal in our own life. It happened in everything. Where these issues, we are very quite they strike, but nobody did anything. But if you look at the behavior, the militaries are coming, the equipment with intelligence, and all that they're going to give us. You know very well. There are professors that who are in military are also having. There is no doubt. There is paid. And for these people to have this coordination, for many people, they were not in any way ridiculous. Towards your vulnerable Nigerian people. What that means is that we are vulnerable to this kind of attack. For the people of other villages, which is the area of Palestine, and also happened to government. We are massacred rams. So we are seeing the number of massacres alone. It is very troubling, very disturbing. The other thing is those who are in some positions who have acted to act dealt with. We have not started dealing with those who should have taken actions. The heads have not been taken. No punishment. It happened in Benue State, no punishment. It happened in Plateau State, nobody resigned, nobody was sacked, nobody was arrested for prosecution. Because most times we are not going to look at the victims or the perpetrators. We are also going to look at those who really could have done something to resist these people, to stop this attack, and they have not done anything. So it is definitely not going to be acceptable, because it has also be a case of business as usual. It's disturbing. Nigeria will always have one case of massacre or the other. So it is troubling, very troubling. If you look at some states that are close to Kwara State, it tells you that these states are not also safe. If you look at a state like Niger State, because I know Niger share border with Kwara State to the north, and you also share border with Kogi State to the east. I'm also aware that it shares border to the Ekiti State, Osun State, and Oyo State. These are states that circle Kwara State. One may think that they could have come from Niger State, because I have always said that Niger State seems to be the hotbed, seems to be the incubator of these terrorists. But we have not done enough to win that area of all these rascalities. So it is disturbing why there was no immediate action when the intel came. It's as a result of complicity. Those who could have acted, they are in total complicity to those who would attack. There is nothing anybody will tell me that I will believe. This is the case, and those who are involved, who ought to have acted without acting, should be arrested. We have not seen where some military heads or some police heads were actually arrested for not acting when they ought to have attacked. How can you be in such situation and such attack comes in, and all you could say is just to give excuse? They will give you thousands of excuses why they did not act.
Hello?
I don't know if you get me.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And the question at this point will be, who is checking now? Is there going to be any sort of, would I call it, a head's going to roll? Because now that we have had this failure in terms of intelligence usage, who is going to be held responsible?
If you ask who is going to be held responsible, first we're going to hold the president responsible. Nigerians will hold the president responsible. Then the president on his own may decide to hold those he has put in positions responsible. I'm aware that if you come to Kwara State, you have 22 armored brigade in that very state, which is also housing the Sobi barrack, the Sobi cantonment in Ilorin, the capital. So I know very well that it is under the 2nd Division of the Nigerian Army. So if you look around, you find out that they can't have such cantonments. They can't have such 22 armored brigade. Yes, these kind of things do happen. So what is the 22 armored brigade doing in Ilorin if they cannot detect what happened in Kaima local government area? What are they doing? So I know very well that they have conducted clearance operations. I know they have Operation Back Strike, on Operation Fasanyama, Operation Harmony. They have had different operations. But the issue now is they allow this to fester for a very long hour. And I've said it many times that even radio communication, intercommunication, working with the locals, these things are very, very important. But if you look around, not that they did not, they came, but it was not acted upon. So we Nigerians will definitely hold the president responsible. The president will have to do something, because nobody's asking questions. There is no responsibility. Nobody's holding anybody to account. If Nigerians demand critical answer from Mr. President, we know that Nigerians are not taking this lightly, and he will be forced to ring the changes as expected and allow and make necessary steps and measures that will usher in a new development. When it happened in Benue State, everybody cried, wept, and it just ended. Benue, the same thing. It started with Benue, Plateau State, from Plateau State to Benue, from Benue to Kwara, from Kwara. I don't know if it had happened in Niger State. So Nigerians definitely will hold the president accountable, because he is the commander. He is the chief of the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic. So we are going to hold him accountable. then he knows those he has put in positions. Probably he is going to find a way to hold them because they have not been holding them to account. That's why these things keep happening. Despite the military spending, some funding, some budgetary allocations, we keep having repeated situations and scenarios. We cannot keep our arms or fold our arms and allow this thing to continue.
Okay, so let me add, because you're talking about whether people are going to be held responsible. I think history is going to talk better about this if actually we do hold people responsible for the actions in this very country. If we cast our mind back to 2018, let's even start from there. 2018, when there was an attack in Benue State, and the then President Muhammad Buhari, he ordered the IGP to locate to Benue State. He did not go, and nothing happened. Buhari left government, and the IGP left government. Now, I will also take you back to what happened sometime. I'm trying to remember that very year. That was 2019. There's one man called Udala, who was then known as Wadume. He was a notorious kidnapping kingpin in Taraba State then. Now, if we're going to recall his story, we know how he was arrested in 2019 by police. That was a team that came from IGP Intelligence Squad. He was arrested in Ibi, Taraba State on suspicion of kidnapping, terrorism, little matters, and what have you not. And the policemen were moving, were moving that, they were moving Wadume from one point to the other. They were moving him from one point to the other, where they met an army checkpoint, and the soldiers attacked policemen, claiming that they had a suspicion that Wadume was being kidnapped. Right? At the end of the day, Wadume was freed. Some policemen were killed in incident, civilians were killed in incident. As I'm talking to you till now, none of those soldiers was tried.
And Wadume?
Wadume was free, though. Later he was rearrested. But those soldiers who ensured that he was free in Abi issue, who kills some policemen, who killed civilians, nobody was tried. So why am I saying this? We live in a country whereby there is no consequence for an action. Because this issue of where there was an intelligence, these people wrote letter first that they were going to come. And people who were supposed to communicate, they communicated to the right people, but nobody acted on anything. Now these people came and killed people in scores. What the government said 75. Red Cross said 160 something. Now if you look at what people from that very area have reviewed, they said they had buried 75. They were still finding more corpses, and some persons had been, some corpses had been sent to their places of origin. So that tells you that the number is far more than the 75 that have been, that have been confirmed by.
Have 162 as at this morning.
So the issue is that I do not know when we have to change from this our lackluster approach to the issue of insecurity. Because in as much as we know that we have challenges when it comes to personnel, when it comes to equipment and what have you not. But I keep on asking, the ones we have, if actually we have the will to do the right thing, we can still get result from it. Now look at Kwara, for instance. The military, they said that that these very bandits or called the terrorists, that they were encroaching into Kwara because they'd been dislodged from some other places like Borno State and Niger State. Like Tony said, Kwara State shares boundaries with some state, and the Niger is one of them. Kogi is also one of them. I think Osun State or Yoruba is also one of them. Now, if I do even need to tell these very guys what to do? I mean, security agencies, they are training this very hard. Of course, they do what they call security mapping. That's the kind of operation you are going to embark on, and you'll be able to do your security mapping. If we do this in this very way, this is going to be the reaction. This is going to be the consequence. So that you now think of how do we now contain what could be the action of our operations. So the thing is, I just hope that we will find a way, because even the issue of state police, I still find it. I'm still skeptical about it. That even if we have state police, whether it's going to make a difference. The only difference we are going to have when it comes to dealing with insecurity is by the time we summon this very will to do the right thing and to bring everybody to book, no matter whose ox is God, whoever is involved, we should be able to look somebody in the face and say you were involved and you should face the music. That's the only time we begin to get result from issue of security.
I want to add something to what you said. It's important that we understand the way and manner this very attack happened in Woru and nearby Nupu village. We have established that the 22 Armored Brigade was nearby. They responded after 10 hours.
10 hours.
They responded after 10 hours when the distress call was made by the village head, Omar Bio Salihu. We now ask question, why did it take them 10 hours to respond? But let's go back to what we have also established, because we know that these people in view, the Lakurawa, because the villagers were able to pinpoint that these jihadists are linked to Lakurawa. And we are told they have been in that very community, in that very local government. They have been preaching strict Sharia doctrines. Strict Sharia doctrines. In fact, we are told that they came with indoctrination of the villagers to accept their own doctrine and also reject Nigerian states. In fact, they preached these people for 5 good months, demanding that the villagers reject the Nigerian state, adopt strict Sharia extremist ideology, or face consequences. For sure, they went on to also tell the residents to abandon worldly practices and embrace their doctrine. These things were going on for more than 5 good months. In fact, they later wrote a letter to warn them that despite their preaching, despite their attempt to indoctrinate them, despite the attempt to make them to accept their own kind of doctrine, their version of doctrine, they did not yield, that they would come. And even when they arrived, there was a distress call made to the 22 Armored Brigade. They responded in the space of 10 hours. Now, I've said, issue of security is a collective responsibility. Everybody has got a role to play. The National Assembly must come up with a legislation that bans extreme ideology, any religious extremism.
Shouldn't Sharia be banned already?
No, if you talk about Sharia, it is more like a moral law for Islam. But where you preach it in an extreme, it has its own extreme version. Sharia is practiced in most countries that practice Islam, but they don't adopt the extreme version of Sharia. So where I'm calling on the National Assembly is that they should look into extremism, both Christianity, both Islam, any form of extremist ideology, even in traditional worship. People that believe that they must take anything by violence, because that is what these extremists employ. That is what we must weed it from our own secular or our communal life. That is one. Then secondly, the need for some state governments, because states can also come up with such law. The need for the state government to go after those that preach extreme ideologies and allow the people to report such situations. Even those who are preaching Islamization, that is for me extreme ideology. You don't convert somebody by fire, by force, and ask the person to reject or abandon his own state. We must find a way to look out for these people that usually grow from time before they could even go on with attack. That is one. That is two. Then thirdly, I have also said the issue of state police, because if you look at that very local government, Nuku and Woru, they are in Aiman local government. What was the response of police? We are calling on military, because we know very well that in these cases, police should be the one that will first respond to such distress situation. If they are overwhelmed or overpowered, then they will now demand assistance from the military. So, police, what was their role? Did they play any role? You cannot just be in a particular local government, things like this happen, you do nothing. It's totally unacceptable. They will give you excuses that we are not well equipped, we have one vehicle, our vehicle was broken. They will just tell you things like this, and you cannot hear anything positive from them. So it brings to the mind that our police are not well equipped, the federal police. And that is why I have always canvassed for state police, because they should be present in every state. Local government police, had it been that this local government has its own policing architecture, its own policing system, and possibly attended to the town, this marauders, these renegades, these terrorists couldn't have had a 10 hours without resistance. There's no way. And the number of casualties may not have been the number we are recording as we speak now. So these things are things we must look into. We have preached over time that we need to have the establishment of state police, local government police, town police. But those who are at the corridors of power, they are not looking into this. They are concerned about election while Nigerians are busy dying in their numbers. We know the solution, but we cannot do it. We've talked about intelligence sharing. Do we have a central intelligence system that the citizens can always access and also make informed reports that can be processed? Do we have it? Apart from the lines they usually share, they will tell you die 111. No, it's not about die 111. There are other ways these things are done. Are we going to do it? What about the victims? Those who have died. What do you think government will do for them? Because many families have been left bereaved. Some have been orphaned. So many people have died. So it is the duty of government to ensure this. And those who have, for time without number, paying off these people. We saw how the Wojuru, the Kachuri, victims were received yesterday by the governor of Kaduna State, Stanley Uba. But nobody asked questions. How much did he pay them? Would Sani to tell Nigerians how much he paid these people? They demanded for 250 million and about 20 motorcycles. Yesterday he received them. But we were not told that any of them was arrested. We were not told that any of them that played a role in such kidnapping was arrested. So it tells you that they were just settled as usual. They will buy more weapons. They will buy more ammunition and they will come back. So it is a kind of reputation. We keep coming ourselves. We keep shooting ourselves on the foot.
So in your estimation, Tony, we are not winning this war. We are simply making headlines.
We are emboldening these people. That's what we are doing. We are expanding. Yes, we are equipping them more. They are fighting psychologically, they are fighting physically, they are fighting emotionally, they are fighting socially, and we are helping them in all these frontiers, in all these causes. That's what we are doing.
Right.
And not doing anything tangible to arrest the situation.
Let's take a break now and attend to some commercials. When we come back, we'll go over to taking a look at some other developments. Yesterday, there was that heated debate at the floor of the House concerning the Electoral Act Amendment and the 2027 projections. All of that and many more at the flip side. Do stay.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Waking up early means getting ready to solve problems on how to stay healthy and make money. But your worries about a good health and stable financial life just received a solution. This is because Neocare is bringing the caring and practical Onitsha Mega Outreach Health and Wealth Seminar. People of all walks of life seeking real support for their health and wealth are invited to learn how to build wealth while staying healthy. At Neocare Onitsha Mega Outreach Health and Wealth Seminar, you will have free health support, which includes free access to the seminar venue, free medical checkup, free medication, and free digital marketing training. Date is Saturday, 7th February 2026. Time is 11 a.m. prompt. Venue, Royal Hall, All Saints Cathedral, Onitsha. For inquiries, call the phone line 070-7111-2665. The number again, 070-7111-2665. Neocare Onitsha Mega Outreach Health and Wealth Seminar. Your health and your wealth is your power.
Measles and rubella are deadly diseases. They spread fast, can cause blindness, brain damage, miscarriage, and sometimes death.
Every day, Nigerian children are at risk. But there is good news. The Saints can protect your child. The Anambra State government will conduct a mass vaccination campaign for children 0 to 14 years from 4th to 15th February 2026 to protect children across the state from deadly diseases. Take your child 9 months to 14 years for the measles rubella vaccine today. Complete all routine immunization doses from birth. After the campaign, routine vaccination continues in all health facilities. Vaccines are safe, effective, and paid for by the government. Don't wait. Visit your nearest health facility or vaccination site. Leave no child behind. This message is brought to you by the Anambra State government and partners.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
Hello, Tony, are you there?
Yes, I'm still there.
Absolutely. Okay, so we are going on to take a look at all of the emerging controversies surrounding the Electoral Act amendment, which has been going on for quite some time now. According to reports, there's been a new controversy that's been stirred by the passing of the amendment to the Electoral Act that includes rejecting mandatory electronic transmission of results from polling units. This reform has made analysts and civil groups see would I call it a crucial hole, a crucial lacuna in this move towards transparency. At the end of everything regarding real-time transmission, the only thing that this is supposed to help us gain is transparency. It's supposed to help us have real-time figures and no room for, would I call it rigging, no room for falsification of data and all of that. And it wasn't the news yesterday that what we are having in this amendment now is contrary to what is being pushed for. Now, according to reports, the Senate's stance has been adjudged retrogressive and, of course, a move to potentially undermine the credibility of 2027 poll. Some persons see it as a strategy that is being put in place to make sure that some things that we have almost become used to in the country's electoral system continue to happen. And so the first question I'll be asking you this morning, Tony, would be why the lawmakers are resisting this idea of transmitting results in real time.
Of course, we have seen some explanations made by different senators. We've listened to the likes of Senator Eyinia Barido, and then even Senator Akpotie Uduaghan, and then even Aminu Tambowa, and even Senator Bitume. They have all given their explanation as regards to what happened that very day. Of course, they say that the Senate, about, I think majority of them agreed that the real time, or what we call the mandatory transmission of election results, was considered after harmonization, after extensive legislative work and also legislative build-ups. So, but they said that they were ambushed. In fact, they accused the party of forging or altering Senate proceedings to remove or override the agreed electronic transmission clause. Some describe it as an ambush. In fact, the Deputy Senate President, Tribune Barrow, was also accused of being a complicit. They put through a version after closed door and also reached agreement that favored mandatory real-time transmission. But Akpabio immediately clarified on the floor and to the press that the Senate did not reject electronic transmission outright. It only declines to make real-time transmission mandatory to avoid operational and legal issues, which for many of us is quite flimsy. Talking about tech failures, disrupting the process, hijacking or attacking or cyber, attacks or cyber hijack. So, but in all of this, the senators, they say they have not adopted the proceedings of that very day. They have not adopted it. But at the closed door section, that all they agreed was mandatory real-time transmission. That Akpabio's statement did not reflect what they agreed upon, that it was an ambush. I saw the post made by Senator Akpotie Uduaghan, the woman from Kogi Central, saying that it is real-time mandatory transmission or nothing. And I also listened to it where he asked Nigerians to rise up in advocacy, to push for what Senate agreed, that they have 85 members. You have 109, the APC senators are 85. So what it means that they have overriding majority. They can decide anything once they have their own caucus meeting, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. But he calls on civil society organizations, civil liberty organizations, non-governmental organizations, and eminent Nigerians that are interested in having a transparent electoral system to come up. Even the youth to put that without real-time mandatory election electronic transmission results, that would be no 2027. Many have called for that. That it is to a sustained pressure that will make these people bow. If you keep their arms and fold their arms, they will have a few days, and there's nothing you can do about it. That the pressure should be on the Senate leadership to go by what the Senate, because many of us have been calling Senate all manner of names. Remember, I called them association of retired governors, a theater of snoring and sleeping. I have brought that very chamber all manner of names as a result of this. But when some of them came out to say it was not what we agreed, look at what we agreed. The Senate leadership ambushed us. They came and then gave out what we did not agree. That at the closed door session, over 80% of the senators were in support of mandatory. You must put the word mandatory. That's the key word. Mandatory. And it formed the subsection 3. Because the section 60 subsection 2 was talking about the presiding officer shall transmit the election result in a manner prescribed by the commission. There is a sub 3. That one is sub 2. The sub 3 part of it says it shall become mandatory for such electronic transmission to be done in a real time. That is the one they removed. But the truth remains that they say that they have not adopted the proceedings. And Nigerians, many of them are being keypad warriors. You don't need to stop being a keypad warriors or Facebook warriors, Instagram warriors, social media warriors. We need to sustain the pressure. We need to do all manner of advocacy. Some people have also called that the National Assembly be dictated for the Senate leadership to abide by the decision of the Senate at the closed door section. You can't just do this because you are in leadership position where you have to harmonize everything agreed upon and release them. So we're also telling the senators to also revolt as they're calling Nigerians to sustain the pressure. We're also calling on them to revolt as against what they agreed upon. But like Senator Tume is saying that once they have their caucus meeting, they may change narrations, they may change positions, because the caucus meeting is more like party affiliation, party oramo, where they will agree that this is the way they want this.
Okay, Tony, can I come in?
And they will abide by what the party would instruct them or what they may think is in party support. So these are the issues.
Okay, so let me come in here because I want to get back to where we started to where we are now. Because after 2023 general elections, of course, we saw that many people went to court to challenge how the election was conducted, and the issue of the failure of INEC to transmit election results from polling unit to IREV came up. In fact, during the 2023 election, we know how it happened, how election results for senatorial elections were transmitted from polling unit, but that of presidency was not transmitted. So when people went to court, it came up in court, and court said there was no legal basis for that. So whatever you're getting from the IREV, or if you're going to use IREV issue to advance your case, it's not going to stand. And based on this, many people, even CSOs, consultants, they went to work. EU, they all went to work and said that, okay, how can we make the electoral act better so that by 2027, those lacunas that we observed in 2023 will not be seen again. And that was how they came up with some issues for amendment of the electoral act, and they pushed them forward to the National Assembly. And I must say that the National Assembly took the time to go through the whole gamut of legislation. Now I must say that there was a joint National Assembly committee that was conducted where the House of Reps, Senate, they worked together to have a common ground on what is being amended. There were public hearings. There were zonal consultations on key reforms. And one of the key reform issues that were raised was this issue of real-time electronic transmission of election result. And from what I got, there was this understanding that this is what is going to be put to the National Assembly, and it was put forward to them. Before the House of Reps went on recess last year, they passed their own, and there was no furore. Nobody raised any eyebrow. Then for the Senate, we were waiting for the Senate for Senate to also pass their own, and it became like we were asking for too much. In fact, we even saw some CSOs who went on protest just to get Senate to come back from recess and do the needful. And they came back, sat the very first time, no headway. Second time, no headway. They formed another committee to go and look into the proposed law. Came back the fourth time, didn't pass until the fifth time. Now, where we are now is we're now having their words against ours, because the Senate in total passed the amendment. But after the passage, Senate President was saying that they did not reject electronic transmission of election results. That what they did was to keep it the way it was captured in 2022. Now, yesterday we now saw Baribe, we saw Ume. They had a press conference where Baribe was insisting that what they passed was electronic transmission of result, not electronic transfer of result. Because Tony, take note, things we're going to also trying to see how we can distinguish between the two. Because they're saying that what they passed was electronic transmission of result, not electronic transfer of result. Now, from what Ume said yesterday, because Ume was on TV, Senator Ume, he said that what they agreed in their session was that they were going to pass electronic transmission of election results. That the only modification they had was that they had to drop the phrase in real time due to the concerns they have about possible network challenge in some areas. But they recognize the fact that there is need that once counting has been concluded at the polling unit, that the results should be transmitted from that very point to the IREB. And so we're now having this issue of it's like almost discrepancy. So number one thing is this: in the proposed amendment they passed, they recognize the need that there is need for electronic transmission, but they didn't add the real time. And the another issue that has come up is the fact that in what they have passed, they are now seeing transfer instead of transmission. So Tony, is there a difference between this word transmission and transfer?
Hello, Tony, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I got the question.
Difference between transfer and transmission here.
The electronic transmission and the electronic transfer. That's what the Abadu is trying to bring on. But the truth remains that when you think about the difference between electronic transmission and electronic transmission has to do with direct electronic sending or uploading of polling unit results. That's what electronic transmission is. When you talk about electronic transfer, that's the word we have already under the 2022 Electoral Act. It allows electronic method, but leaves the exact mode, timing, and method. When you talk about the transfer, electronic transfer, you are saying that yes, the election results be transferred or be sent to any place electronically. But one thing that transfer does not maybe capture is the issue of timing and all that. So generally speaking, when we talk about transmission, because people are saying what's the difference between transmission and transfer, because transfer, once electronic is there, if you add electronic to transfer, it means that the mode of transfer becomes electronic one. And the only way you can do electronic transfer is when you use electronic devices to do such a transfer. And then we know that the device is also an electronic device. But when you talk about electronic transmission, it's more like something going on in a network. So I think the difference, if you ask me, because I'm also into IT, I'm also an IT expert, the only difference in electronic transmission and electronic transfer has to do with network server. Because if you talk about electronic transmission, I'm talking about server.
Okay, Tony, just a moment. Just a moment, because I seem to have found out what the issue is now. Now, if you look at the Electoral Act of 2022, which I'm going to make reference to, because the Senate President is saying that what they did was to retain what was contained in 2022 Electoral Act.
And Abaribe said they are not retaining it.
Exactly. So now if you look at the 2022 Electoral Act, you look at Section 60, subsection 5. It says, the presiding officer shall transfer the result, including total number of accredited voters and the result of the ballot, in a manner as prescribed by the commission.
Transfer in a manner, which means it can change.
Exactly. Then the key thing there is that there is no word, there's no mention of electronic. Do you get? But this time around they're saying it must be electronic, because you cannot transfer result from polling unit to IRF without using an electronics. So that's the argument of Ume and Co. That the issue is that we cannot retain it the way it is in 2022 Electoral Act. There must be that very word. That word of electronic transmission must come in, and it must be mandatory.
I also want to point out something. Transfer and transmit here mean two different things. Transfer could mean take from somewhere and put here.
Yep.
Transmit means this is supposed to be going up on the go. All right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, Tony, go on.
And because just like I was saying, when you talk about transmission, when you are transmitting something, you are transmitting that thing to a particular network. Like if you are, let's use power for instance, power generation. If you're asked to transmit power generated, you mean that you are transferring that to grid. Grid is just like a reservoir. And that reservoir can be called a server. But if you're talking about transfer can be from one place to any place. So transmission is more direct, but I understand what person is trying to say, that what we have in our electoral law is transfer. There is no word electronic transfer. No. That election results can be transferred in a manner prescribed by the commission. That is transfer. But once you put electronic transfer, you are still saying that I can transmit results from one device to the other. I'm just trying to make this thing very simple. Electronic transfer of results means I can transfer from one device to the other, because device is an electronic device. But when you talk about transmission is telling you there is a reservoir, there is a server, there is a network you must upload to. So two of them are not the same. Electronic transfer and electronic transmission are not the same. I've explained it. But what we have in the Electoral Act is just transfer, no electronic transfer, just transfer. But we don't want to be confused with all these syntax, all these terminologies, jargons, patois. We don't want to be confused about that. What Nigerians want is electronic transmission. That's what Nigerians want. That's what they prayed for. That is what they elected. According to the Senate, that's what they also agreed upon. For Ababio to come out to say all manner of things, it is not going to be acceptable. So I'm telling Nigerians to reject the position of Ababio and his colleagues, those who are in support of what the few have done. So we will not allow that. We are calling on voters to come out, and if they don't come out, it becomes more like to their own credit, because if Nigerians don't turn up for election, the politicians will have a field day, because they will have less to spend during the election. So what we would want is to sustain the pressure that provision, subsection 3 of section 50, electronic transmission, mandatory. See, the three key words we are looking at there: mandatory, electronic transmission, and real time. These are the three key words. Because if you do not put real time, somebody may decide to do it in local government. If you just leave it at the election result shall be transmitted electronically, it means that I can even conclude the process, take it to my local government, take it to anywhere, from there do it. Real time means you must do it at the polling unit. That is the word, real time. So the key three words we are looking at for: electronic transmission, mandatory, real time. Mandatory is that you must do it. Real time, immediately. Electronic transmission, it must be uploaded to the server. These are the three key words.
All right, Tony, let's quickly take a look at the registration of two political parties yesterday. NDC DC, and DLA. Quickly, Tony, what do you think this holds for Nigeria's democracy? Is this a move in the right direction? Is it supposed to strengthen our democracy, or is it just one of those things that happen around here?
When I saw that, two things that came to my mind was the word democratic being in the two of them. And if you look at ADC, African Democratic Congress, so we are having many democratic syntax in so many political parties. I'm not giving any meaning, but I just want to highlight it. So upon all the political parties, I'm not saying that they did not meet the requirements or that they met the requirements, because I like to say that they met the requirements. But the ones they registered, the two they registered, were the ones that had democratic in between them. Could that be used? Some people have listened to some other commentator. They say, is there a way to cause confusion? I don't know where the confusion will be. But the key thing is, we know many times that most of these political parties are just there for being there. In fact, there are those that will be in ruling party, they will go and register another political party for their own reason. We asked a question, why did INEC invite Samuel Lanya and Wike faction to the quarterly consultative meeting INEC had yesterday? Upon everything said about the imbroglio, about the impasse, about the issues that are going on in PDP, upon clear examination, INEC invited Wike faction, people that came together and gave themselves positions. What does that tell you? For those who are reading meaning, it tells you a lot, and I won't go beyond that. I won't go beyond it. So the registration of the two political parties, for me, whether it's a welcome development because the constitution allows that, but more political parties to be registered. I'm calling for, but I wouldn't want many, because these people, they are just there for business. Many of them are not there for election. They are not there for election. They are not contesting any election. They are just there for business. When people cannot get tickets from different political parties, they will just come and they will sell tickets to them and they will make their money. So it is just an enterprise for them. So there is nothing big, or it's not a big deal. There is nothing to celebrate about the registration of two more political parties. The ones we have already, how many of them have been up and around? How many of them have been doing what they're supposed to do? So our problem does not lie in more registration of political parties. It doesn't solve our problem. That's the only thing I can say.
All right. Let's move on to another conversation real quickly, because yesterday an Enugu State High Court ruled that the British government must pay £420 million in compensation to the families of 21 miners who were killed in 1949 by the then British colonial administration. According to reports, these 21 miners, there were more than 21 actually, 21 died and about 50 of them were injured. They had staged a sort of protest at work to protest against the poor working conditions, unpaid wages, racial wage disparities, the harsh treatments under the British-run management of the Iver Valley coal mine in Enugu at the time. And the then police response, according to historical accounts, a certain Captain F.S. Phillip, a British superintendent of police, ordered his men to fire on the assembled unarmed workers during the confrontation, and of course 21 of them died. And so yesterday, £420 million were given to the British government as compensation, so to say, for that incident. 70 years later, Tony, do you see the British government abiding by this? And I'm also curious to find out, if we start to go back to look at incidents like that, would it bring more compensation the way of Nigerian some of the persons affected, their direct families may not even be available anymore, but let me know what you think.
I think for me, it's a welcome development. It's a welcome development. It's just to hold our colonial masters accountable for evil that they did. I have said it many times, the colonial powers, the colonial masters, they are all evil. They committed worse atrocities, even more than the one we are seeing today. So it is a welcome development for me, and I must commend the courage of the Justice Onubu in handling such judgments yesterday. So I've seen such judgments in places like Kenya. So I've seen it also in some other places. So it is for me a welcome development. Because if you look around, you can see how lives we are wasting for demanding just conditions for work. And I've not seen anywhere in the world where if you demand just condition, you'll be shot at. So the miners, just like you said, were killed in 1949 at Eva Valley in Enugu. In fact, it is better known as Eva Valley Massacre by British colonial authorities. I know that the judge described the killings as very unlawful and the violation of the right to life. So it's just that, but many people have had concern about the judgment because they say that in international law, jurisdiction over a foreign sovereign government is usually limited. And sometimes many countries recognize sovereign immunity, that they cannot have jurisdiction over their sovereignty. It also means that courts cannot generally force a foreign government to appear or to be bound by a domestic judgment without consent. So if you look at that very judgment, there was no representation of British colonial masters. Of course, they did not appear. So it was one-sided affair because they were extended only branch to make their own position before the court. They did not honor that. They did not appear. So the judge did not also look in that direction. He said that he has jurisdiction and issued a judgment. In fact, the real-world enforceability against the British government depends on diplomatic action and international legal processes because the judge ordered the Nigerian foreign mission to begin diplomatic engagement to ensure how the British authorities will comply with that very order. Had it been that this judgment was given in England and if we fail to comply, they will seize our assets there. We have many assets scattered in UK. I don't know if Britain have any assets in Nigeria. Of course, they have assets here in Nigeria. If for us to enforce this judgment, we must and foremost begin diplomatic engagement and diplomatic actions. But the last resort would be where their assets will be confiscated. We saw how Nigerian President aircraft was grounded by a particular company that thought that we are owing the contractual terms. So the truth remains that we've seen this many times. There was a Belgian court of appeal that ruled that the Belgian state was guilty of crime against humanity for the forceful separation of middle-aged children from their Congolese mothers during the colonial rule and ordered 50,000 euros to each plaintiff. But it was a Belgian court because Belgians colonized Congo. So for the fact that it happened there, I don't know if it could have been possible had it been that a Congolese court had done that. So we have seen such in Kenya. Just like I said, there was a time a court in Kenya ruled against British authorities. But I don't know the level of responsibility of that very judgment. For me, it's a welcome development.
All right, Tony. Thank you for that. Let's take a break now, attend to some commercials. Once we come back, we open up the phone lines. Keep it locked.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Ọrịa arụbara na ọrịa osinikuku akpọrọ rubella bụ ọrịa ogbu na nwayọ. Ha bụ ndị nke na-agbasa ngwa ngwa ma bụrụ nke na-akpatara mmadụ ịkpụ isi, imebi ụbụrụ isi, atụ ọpụọ, ọtụtụ mgbe na-abụ ọnwụ.
Ụbọchị ọbụla nwatakịrị ụmụafọ ala Naịjirịa nọ n'ihe egwu mana enwere ozi ọma ọgwụ mgbochi ga-echekwaba nwa gị. Gọọmenti Anambra steeti bụ ndị na-achịkọba ọrụ ịgba ọgwụ mgbochi malite n'ụmụaka ndị amụrụ ọhụrụ wee ruo n'afọ 14 nke ga-amalite site n'abalị 4 ruo abalị 15 nke ọnwa February afọ 2026 iji wechekwaba ụmụaka nọ n'ime steeti a pụọ na ya bụ ọrịa ogbu na nwayọ. Kpọga ụmụaka gị malite n'ọnwa 9 wee ruo n'afọ 14 maka ịgbagha ọgwụ mgbochi nyere ọrịa arụbara na ọrịa osinikuku akpọrọ rubella tata. Gbaa ụmụaka gị ọgwụ mgbochi ndị a niile malite n'ụbọchị amụrụ ka. Ọ bụ na agbacha nyaba ọgwụ mgbochi ndị a ga-agakwa n'ihu wee na-agba ya n'ụlọ nlekọta ahụike niile e nwere n'ime steeti a. Ọgwụ mgbochi a dị mma ma na-arụ ọrụ gwogwo. Ọ bụkwa nke a kwụrụ ụgwọ ya site n'aka gọọmenti. Nya bụ echenekwe ka agwa gị gaa n'ụlọ nlekọta ahụike ọbụla dị gị nso ma ọ bụ n'ebe a na-agbanyaba ọgwụ mgbochi. Abịapụkwana nwa gị n'akụkụ. Ozi a si n'aka gọọmenti Anambra steeti na ndị ga ha na-ejikọtara aka n'ọrụ ịgba ọgwụ mgbochi.
NEPA don take light again. Wetin I fit do? Everyday fuel don cost. How person wan take survive? I go cook soup today, tomorrow e go sour.
My people, why you dey stress when the sun dey your head for free? Switch to the affordable solar energy wey Wascana Solar Company dey give small businesses and homes across Naija, whether na barbing salon o, restaurant o, supermarket o, or your 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. Wascana Solar get correct durable solar wey go serve you wella. No more NEPA wahala, no more expensive fuel. Let the sun power your business and home for free. And no forget o, solar fans, solar lights, everything dey available. Call Wascana Solar now for 0806 374 2374. I repeat am, 0806 374 2374, or send email to wascanasolar@gmail.com. Visit their office near Olive Relief after Marble Hill School Junction, Okpanam Road, Asaba, or Classic Line Zone 2, A4 Electrical Dealers International Market, Obosi. Wascana Solar, Okumube.
Genti n'ọkwa dị oke mkpa. Ụlọọrụ Anambra State Signage and Advertisement Agency ANSA na hichapụ bekee bụ ụlọọrụ iwu nyere ikike ịchekwa na ịhazi mgbasa ozi ahịa n'ilo n'akụkụ Anambra State dị iche iche. Anyị ji ohere a eme ka ndị Anambra n'ọha na eze niile ndị mmadoro akwụkwọ ozi ahịa maọbụ eserese ozi ahịa n'ụgbọala ha dị iche iche ka ha kaba arụ jee gbata akwụkwọ akpọrọ Branded Vehicle Permit. Ya bụ ikike ịmado ya bụ akwụkwọ ozi n'ụgbọala ha nke kpuchitere ụdị ụgbọala niile ma nnukwu ụgbọala ma obere ụgbọala ma ọgba tuntum ma keke na pepe. Ekwekwala ka nwụchikọ ụgbọala gị tupu ije gbata akwụkwọ ikike nke gị. Were ọsọ were ije jee n'isi ụlọọrụ ANSA nọmba 8 Ekwulọbịa Road GRA Ọka ma ọ bụgasị n'isi ụlọọrụ anyị dịgasị na Nnewi North Oyi AIRS Agụata Ekwusigo Njikọ Ọka Idemmili North Idemmili South Onitsha North na Onitsha South isi ọchịchị ime obodo ha gasị iji wee nweta akwụkwọ nke gị. Matakwa ọ bụ ịda iwu mmadụ ịnyagharị ụgbọala madoro akwụkwọ mgbasa ozi ahịa na-anataghị ikike permit ya. Ọ dịkwazi oke mkpa na ị ga-amata na ANSA anaghị anabata akwụkwọ emblem dịka akwụkwọ ikike ịgbasa ozi ahịa n'ụgbọala gị. Ikike branded permit a bụ naanị ụlọọrụ signage agency dị iche iche na-enye ya n'akụkụ Naijiria gasị. Nyere anyị aka ka ọ baalụ gị uru. Ozi a si n'aka Anambra State Signage and Advertisement Agency.
ANSA, your progress partner in business.
Udala Radio, 104.7 FM.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
Get involved now. Put that call across to 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. We're live on Facebook, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. 2 minutes, go straight to the point. Please be as objective as possible. Good morning.
Good morning, Chisom Chinedu.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Franklin.
Yes, good morning.
And good morning, Ogadagri Dr. Tono Shambeki. I proceed to pick up from Obuchi.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. I've noticed that in this country, our leaders, they swear with Bible and Quran that they will protect life and property. They did. They are not protecting any property. They are not protecting any life. See, somebody get a letter from this blood-sucking group called themselves terrorists or Boko Haram and present it to national security or to authority. What are you people supposed to do? If you value the life of the citizens of this country, you need to troop in so many, even 3,000 soldiers, 3,000 mobile police there. If they can stay there for 6 months to protect the life and property there. Or the other way around. What is going on? Who will bear the cask in this country? And will cross our legs and hands, say that God will help. See, God has already helped we as the citizens of this country. God has already done everything for us. We, as the citizens, supposed to do which we're supposed to do. We have already suffered a lot. We have already been killed so many of our fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters. Innocent blood that do them nothing. Blood they right. They just came in, do a lot of things, massacre in different states. And they can never capture even one person. Look very deep. You will notice that there is a hole that the river is flowing. The one thing I know is that God Almighty up there is watching. It will never be good for anybody that taking the life that God created. glory of God will come in. They can never escape. I heard my case here. I bless all of you.
Good morning to you too. Let's hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Franklin.
Good morning.
Good morning, sister.
She's on.
This is the voice of English Sukoy from our in the kingdom.
Go ahead, please.
You see, the government of this country are going through to save the citizens of this country. I said it before. You see, these bandits, they are not static. They are not staying in a particular place. They move from one place to the other. This is how they do their own thing. So, government and the military supposed to create what we call quick intervention force. And they with the Air Force, helicopter, and with the weapons and hardware. So when such thing happens, first then they will go up. The helicopter will go up, and the other that is coming. The other that is up will destroy all those people. If any other thing. You see, sometimes you don't blame the military. The boys are afraid because they are already taking position there, waiting for the people who come to shoot them. So if you go there, you get much casualties. So we need more powerful equipment to attack these people. And this government has nothing to do. They're supposed to have a battery. 5 stations of air intervention force in this part of the country. But once anything happens, they will move from that to attack those people. But they don't want to. Because it's the electoral law. This is what they are. They know what they are doing. But the future will destroy them. Thank you. I'm done.
All right then. Let us hear you. Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, please turn down the volume.
Good morning, sir. My name is George. Calling from Asaba. I would like to talk about this man called Amadi. It's let me say something here. No matter anything anybody is doing to the citizen of this country, see that God is not watching him. God is watching him. Because I would say that Amadi has did a lot of damage to these people of this country than good. Since he finished in general as a governor, since then, he has been playing a very bad politics with the people of this country. It's just that the youth of this country have not had the time to revoke against bad government, and the evil people that live in us. I don't understand this is the same man. After he finished his tenure as a governor, he went to Senate. In the second tenure of Buhari, he lost the election. We now went to NDCC chairman. We know everything that happened. The famous of the mic. Now he now play more politics that made it to become the president. Since then, Akpabio has been giving us problem in this country. They have been giving us severe problems. At the end of the day, I don't understand. This country is a country that have people that even have a common sense. What is so difficult? People say that you people are not finding your way to the seat of power, God of power, with rigging. What's so difficult for you to sign that they must transmit the result? But that is the only good of contention that are contesting here. Because in the last election, after all the old time, okay, if I may have, most exactly, other people trying to amend in the electoral law. Because I believe that in between of the time of Buhari, all these things have been discussed. All these things have been discussed. And that is the matter that they used to confuse us, for us to make sure that we are going to come out in mass to come and vote in 2023. That they are going to do electoral transmission. Even the former ANS chairman. It's when our court came in, they would not know that it's within the jurisdiction and within the right to know they are going to do electoral transmission. Okay, now we are trying to now amend and correct the anomaly that happened. One man is just sitting down and continue to do rubbish there. Nigeria to look at the part very well. Because getting it out of hand.
Right.
The eyes of the politics that you're playing, you know that you are not taking everybody to be a fool. Thank you.
All right then. Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, my chief speaker, Tony Olizambeki. Good morning, Franklin. And good morning, Chisom. My name is Honorable Iden Zabeyo, Ukulola, Utendo, Umwetuneken Note. Can I go on?
Absolutely.
Let me just quickly say, from all the analysis from Tony Olizambeki, and for all the analysis from Franklin, I want to stand to say that Nigerian government is sponsoring this atrocity called insecurity in Nigeria. Tell me why they will all the roads in the southeast, army blockage. What are these people doing in the southeast where they are peace? While over there at the north, on daily basis, innocent civilians are being killed, and nobody cares about it. Because they are telling us 10 hours, the whole 10 hours, while these people were alert, immediately these people came for this massacre. Then, prison can the soldiers give us? Even the police in that community, what are they doing? They have to intervene first with them. When it is out of hand, they invite the army. But all these things was not done. Now they are telling us one story or the other. I want to tell you the simple truth. The government of Nigeria knows about all these things that is happening, and that was why they don't want to fight insurgency in this country. Look at the amount of money that was for security in Nigeria. What are those money being used for? Then, now they have released the people from Kaduna. Nobody told us one is arrested or two is arrested. Nobody told us the amount of money. Sponsoring them again. I cry for Nigeria. Then, I told you, this is happening. What is happening in the NSCC? This is the kind of thing that happened in the tax reform. Now, they have went and changed a different thing altogether to show you that these people are not ready to govern Nigeria in a good way. And I want to ask Tony Olizambeki, what are we going to do if Godwin Rapazio and his colleagues have to reverse this thing and put the exact things that we need to get Nigerian 2027 election credible? Thank you and God bless you. Tony Olizambeki, I would like you to answer this question so that we start pursuing it immediately in order to see that our future is in our hands and we shall take it in 2027. Thank you and God bless you.
All right, Tony, did you get that question? Tony, are you there? Hello. Good morning.
Wonderful morning to you, Chisom Chinedu.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tony Olizambeki. Good morning. Let me just go straight
Your name and your location, please.
Honorable Dick, and I'm calling from Onitsha.
Go ahead.
The fact is this. This is why Boko Haram, ISWA, bandits continue to thrive in the country. Are you trying to tell me that they are not aware of all this rigging pattern, not wanting the due process to follow with the second tier of government, National Assembly to be precise, even the presidency and the judiciary? Are you trying to tell me that they are not aware of what's happening in the country? Some of them are saying that they want to, install an Islamic constitution, that are not comfortable with this kind of constitution that we are running. This is why, terrorists continue to thrive in this country. So I think what Abadio is doing is not helping even himself. Because presently now, you are trying to go against the will of the people for you to remain in power. How and pattern you get into office, is more important even than the office you're going in. If you get in there into rigging and fraudulent way, the thing, those who help you to rig will still come back to remind you of that. So I just want to say that the U.S. government, who is on ground already, should be taking note of what is going on. Because exactly what is happening in Venezuela. In Iran, today they are seeking negotiation with the U.S. So I think the U.S. should bring their satellites, not just only on these terrorists that they are trying to track down, but also on the National Assembly of Nigeria and also the presidency and the judiciary. Because these are where the major issue lies. In Nigeria today, you cannot do a protest. If you start protesting, they will target pardonable felony, and you will see a judge that will send you to prison. So these are the things that cause, all this brouhaha we have in Nigeria. Courtesy of Abadjo and this present administration of APC, because they are not following democratic process, they are not following the rule of law, they are not following the pattern laid down by their own constitution. They are even going against their own constitution. So I just want to say that what they are doing harm to themselves. It's not the issue of sitting on a private jet and massaging a lady's leg, a senator. When the Congress in the U.S. with the deliberation on the affairs of borders, your people, and you are massaging a woman in a so you say it's AI. But I've looked at that video, that cannot, even apart from that, look at what they are concentrated with, Natasha this, Natasha that. A senator that should think outside the box on what to do or how your country can move forward. You cannot think outside the box on what to do. All you are trying to tell us is that we have to return back to transfer of the election. In this, in this digital world, you are bringing us back to analog. So I just want to urge the U.S. government, the Congress, to be more satellites on the National Assembly before they put this country on fire. Thank you so much.
All right, then one more, and then we head over to Facebook. Good morning. Can you do this in a minute?
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
This comrade Oshita Olimo from Onitsha North.
Go ahead, please.
About insecurity in Nigeria, all I want to tell you is that our government, our top branch, they are all complicit in what is happening. How much does it cost to buy a weaponized drone that other advanced countries use? Every year we see the budget. Since the advent of insurgency in Nigeria, right from the time of Boko Haram, which is dating back to 2008, the budget for defense has tripled, if not for tripled. You understand? You keep pumping trillions of naira into military wares. Where are they going to? Are this allocation used to settle the top military brass, the top officers in the military, so that they will not come in and take over power? Where are all this money going to? Soldiers are being killed day to day. You keep telling us that every year there is trillions of naira being allocated for defense, for the military, and we are not seeing any results. How much does it cost, to buy a weaponized drone to monitor the whole of the northeast, northwest, and so on?
All right, comrade, I have to let you go. Let's head over to Facebook now. Udala Radio 104.7 FM is our handle.
Okay, from the post we have here, we begin with the post we have from Master Day SJ. He says, Nigeria, where are we going in this country? All hope is lost in Nigeria, since our expectation on electronic transmission of election result has been rejected by Honorable National Assembly. No wonder there is exodus defection to the APC. He posted from Onitsha, Anambra State. Then Dr. Mr. Modebra from Owerri, Imo State says, this rubber stamp and remote control tent National Assembly is the worst in the history of Nigeria. What do we do? Do we just keep lamenting and allow these dealers to keep playing on our intelligence? They have directly told us that there will be no free and fair elections, that there will be no transparency. They feel that we are breast of burden that should be seen and not heard. We reject this in its entirety and will never accept it. Then the wise wisdom says, majority of security head commanders are Muslims and Fulanis. How do we expect brothers to be against others? Well, this assertion, I doubt if it's totally correct. If you check the list of the heads of security agencies we have, I think about 8 of them, if you weigh them, I think on the balance, talking about Christian and the Muslim ratio, I think they're on the balance. So you can also do check on this to know if what you protest is actually correct. Chizoba Akabuobi, thank you very much for dropping your comment. Then Ikengam says he's watching from Muslim War, and he says, I shed tears watching Kwara killings, and he's asking where our soldiers when these killings were going on. Nigerian soldiers is asking whether they are for decoration. Okay. Irene Ze, EG from Ibadan Fan Settlement, and he says, for now, I reserve my comments on what is happening in Nigeria, including Anambra my home state because I personally did not see the difference. Then Arinze Bartholomew from Inoma says that this is the time for Nigerians to stand up and push the Senate and the presidency to abide by the will and wishes of the ordinary citizens. Like Senator Victor Ume had said, it should be electronic transmission and not transfer. Transfer can easily be tampered with. Nana says, okay, you're on point, but the problem we are facing in this country is APC. I still believe that one day we shall rejoice and our promised land will be assured. Nanyolugo from a bargain, okay, he said he can hear us from where he traveled to. Thank you for following us. Young Gobe Onwa says Nigerian politicians are toying with the life of Nigerians. It has happened in Benue, Niger, and Kwara State. It costs us nothing to get security gadget from Benue State. Okay, that's the way he posted it anyway. So these are the reactions we have on our Facebook page this morning.
All right, then we are rounding off now. Let me see if we can get Tony to answer that question. Tony, there was a question concerning what we should do as Nigerians to get that electoral act that is going to really serve us.
Well, you know, as it stands now, that's something I do tell Nigerians that as it stands now, there are things we can do in the interim, and there are things we can do in the long run. It's on your line?
Not yet,
okay.
so please go ahead.
So things we can do on the interim is this. The process is long going because there is a harmonization committee that is going to sit and harmonize what was passed by the House of Rep and then what was passed by the Senate. Now, as it stands now, we still have a chance to do some remedy. And all we can do is to mount pressure on these our lawmakers, the senators. And how do you mount pressure? We talked about what about the possibility of Nigerians mobilizing, going to the National Assembly to demand that the right thing should be done. So what about even on your own too? Because I keep on saying these lawmakers or these senators, they came from somewhere, and sometimes they might need to come home to you to talk to you, or even when they don't come home, you know, you can pick up your phone and call your senator and asking questions. You know, you can even organize people in your community and say, okay, let's call on so and so person to answer questions on how the person, you know, on what the person did, on how he was able to represent us when it comes to the issue of electoral amendment. So we can do it in a small unit. We can do personalized stuff, and at the same time can as well do group stuff, demanding that these people should do the right thing. And then the pressure we also have in the media should also be sustained, because in one way or the other, if people hadn't spoken out in the media, nobody should have been getting the kind of explanations we are getting from some lawmakers. But what my hope is these days, we didn't see any dissent during the passage. No, we didn't see any lawmaker or any senator who stood up to say that what is being passed is not what we agreed upon. Or does it mean that after it was passed, then when the document came out, a different thing happened? Because if that is what happened, of course we need to ask questions, because the question should be, if actually there was a change in what was agreed to be passed and what was eventually passed. So the question is, where did that happen? Because I don't know if I device honorable, I got the one and done I go for when we passed tax law, okay, yes, tax reform law, when it was passed, we didn't have any issue until it was gazetted. We began to have the issue that the one passed by the lawmakers is different from the one gazetted. And now to the issue of this electoral act law, or rather bill, some lawmakers are now saying that what they agreed upon during the executive session is not what was passed. So if there was change, where did it happen? So
and why are they fumbling with it like this? Exactly. Why are they fumbling? Why are they trying to play on the intelligence of Nigerians? But all of those questions will definitely get answers to in the coming days from what they eventually get to do and pass. The Polity is going to make a return tomorrow, 9:15 down to 11 a.m. Thank you, Tony, for your wonderful analysis today. Unfortunately, I think Tony is not available anymore to continue with the conversation. But Franklin already answered what we can do as Nigerians to be a part of this change that we so desire. Thank you for being for your calls and your contribution. Thank you, Franklin. Tomorrow is another day. Wait, today is Friday, Frank. Thank God it's Friday. You already know. See you on Monday. I am Chisom Chinedu. Good morning.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. seriously authentic.
Measles and rubella not deadly diseases. Them they spread fast. They fit cause blindness, brain damage, miscarriage, and sometimes they fit cause